A 60-day ceasefire in Gaza, a glimmer of hope, or just a pause before the next storm? That's the question now haunting the corridors of diplomacy, refugee camps, and war rooms alike. As former U.S. President Donald Trump announced Israel's agreement to a 60-day truce, the world paused, not in celebration, but in cautious silence. For Gaza, a land exhausted by airstrikes, mourning, and starvation, this announcement feels like a temporary breath after months of suffocating violence. Donald, known for his blunt and unfiltered diplomacy, shared through a social media statement that his personal representatives had met with Israeli officials to reach this ceasefire deal, which he described as the best Hamas will get. His words weren't cloaked in the usual diplomatic softness. They were firm, even ominous. According to him, rejecting this proposal would not bring better offers, but instead a far worse reality. He further asserted that this 2-month ceasefire would be used to work closely with all involved parties to push toward a final resolution, toward the end of a war that has devastated an entire population and destabilized the region. But to many, these statements feel more like pressure tactics than pathways to peace. For the people on the ground in Gaza, this ceasefire is not just about political calculations. It is about surviving to the next sunrise, about burying fewer children this week than they did the last. After weeks of relentless bombings that killed more than 68 Palestinians in a single round of attacks, including 10 aid workers and medical volunteers, Gaza is no longer just a war zone. It's a humanitarian graveyard. Hospitals like Al-Aqsa have been bombed, food trucks halted, children orphaned in seconds. And now, amid the dust and rubble, comes this announcement of a 60-day halt, a ceasefire that some see as an opportunity for humanitarian aid to trickle in, and others fear is nothing more than a reset button for further destruction. Trump's tone suggests urgency. He positions this deal not as a suggestion, but a final offer. His message to Hamas is blunt: accept this or face something worse. But for the people in Gaza, Hamas is not the only force shaping their fate. Missiles, drones, global silence, and the indifference of powerful nations have played a much louder role. While Trump insists that his team will use this 60-day window to negotiate lasting peace, history teaches us to be cautious. Temporary ceasefires in this region are often just that. Temporary ceasefires have come and gone. Promises have been made and broken. Truces signed and shattered. What makes this time any different? That's what Gaza wants to know. That's what the world must ask before celebrating too soon. The truth is, this war has never only been about weapons and borders. It has been about history, identity, and survival. Every ceasefire is shaped not only by current violence, but by the pain of decades. Gaza has been under blockade for years. Every child born there already inherits a life of siege. Every mother has seen more funerals than birthdays. Every family counts loss before joy. In such a place, even a temporary ceasefire doesn't bring peace. It brings a moment to grieve uninterrupted, a moment to find your missing child's shoe without dodging another missile. And yet, even that moment is worth something. For aid workers, the 60-day ceasefire may allow convoys to move, for food to reach hungry mouths, for hospitals to receive desperately needed supplies. For civilians, it could mean 60 nights without fearing their roof will collapse in the dark. But that hope is thin, because many in Gaza know the pattern. When the truce ends, the bombs return, often with more targets. Trump's announcement has also been received with caution across the international stage. Some allies applaud the move as a strategic step toward others view it as political theater, a way to score international points while avoiding real solutions. The Israeli leadership, though agreeing to the truce, remains militarily alert, with statements suggesting that if Hamas shows any resistance or violation, the ceasefire could collapse at any moment. So the terms are fragile, the space for diplomacy narrow, and the trust nearly none. Yet, in the absence of better options, the world holds on to this temporary truce like a bandage on a gaping wound. The language of Trump's statement reveals much. It is less about peace and more about managing threat. By saying Hamas won't get a better deal, the former president frames the ceasefire not as mutual resolution, but as a limited offer in a power game. This kind of pressure may force quick decisions but rarely builds long-term peace. And for the people of Gaza, there's no time left for politics. They need food, water, medicine, and silence. Not the silence of the world watching them die, but the silence of drones disappearing, of guns cooling, of parents able to sleep without holding their children through the night in fear. It is this silence that the ceasefire might bring. And even if it lasts just 60 days, for some that's a miracle. But even miracles feel dangerous in Gaza. After witnessing promises broken again and again, every offer is met with suspicion. Who enforces this truce? What happens if it's broken? Will the aid trucks be allowed to cross every day? Or will bureaucratic delays and political games keep food on one side of the border while people starve on the other? These are not hypothetical concerns. These are daily realities in Gaza, where a ceasefire may be announced in a tweet, but never felt on the ground. Donald's involvement also adds complexity. His history with Israeli leadership, his past statements, and his foreign policy record make him a polarizing figure in the Middle East. While some believe his blunt approach gets results, others worry it ignores nuanced history and justice. The people of Gaza aren't seeking a perfect negotiator, seeking someone who sees their humanity before their political label, someone who speaks of peace without threats, someone who acknowledges their suffering without filters. As this 60-day clock starts ticking, the eyes of the world must not turn away. Ceasefires are not victories. They are temporary breaks in a war that should never have started. The next few weeks will test whether international leaders can translate this pause into dialogue, whether aid can reach the wounded, whether hostages can be released, whether mothers can tuck their children into bed without scanning the skies. Every day of this ceasefire must be used with urgency, not celebration. Every hour must bring relief, not delay. And every statement made by Trump, by Israel, by Hamas, must be measured against one question. Does this save lives or cost more time? Because time is running out in Gaza, every second counts. In 60 days, history will ask what the world did with this pause. Will it be remembered as the start of something better, or just another pause before the bombs returned? Will this ceasefire lead to conversations that finally value Palestinian lives, or will it become another footnote in a long book of betrayals? The children of Gaza will remember not the words, but the nights they slept or didn't. The mothers will remember whether they found bread or just promises, and the world will be judged not by what it said, but what it allowed. The burden is now on all parties, leaders, mediators, and every nation with a voice, to treat these 60 days not as a favor to Gaza, but as a responsibility to humanity. War should never be normal. Occupation should never be silent, and ceasefire should never be the highest hope. The people of Gaza deserve more than this, more than pauses between pain. They deserve peace, justice, dignity, and a future. And for that future to begin, these 60 days must not be wasted. They must be fought for, not with weapons, but with truth, empathy, and unshakable moral clarity. Because if not now, then when? If not in the face of so much death, then what will move us? And if this ceasefire fails like all the others, the question won't be whether peace was possible. The question will be whether the world ever truly tried.